We've talked about it before, but folks, this deserves a second video. It's time to go into Walt Disney World, seemingly escaping the culture war that the prior leadership dove into, maybe even under current CEO Josh D'Amaro. So why now? Why are they suddenly saying, ladies and gentlemen, once more? Well, it turns out that lower level of attendance has Disney management shouting, let's get back to the mainstream middle. It's a beautiful day, folks, in the neighborhood right here on TPP, where all the news should be fun, and today's news definitively is just that. Click that like button, and it's time to clap back at a Disney company that was determined to go full-blown divisive, and now they're wishing they had never done so. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's talk about that. Well, would you look at that? Divisive culture war stuff for Disney is not going well, especially at the happiest place on earth. And now they're pulling it back out of thatparkplace.com. Folks, Disney Parks is bringing back ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Can you believe it? I can't believe they ever got rid of the thing. We'll talk about why in just a second. It's a gendered language major cultural reversal. It says, have you been exhausted by cast members referring to you as friend, unable to say sir or ma'am? If so, don't thank the Phoenicians. Thank Bob Iger at a very strange moment in time in which Disney decided to go all in on divisive language edicts at their parks. But now that appears to finally be coming to an end, probably because it was super unpopular. Disney Parks has indeed begun quietly restoring gendered language such as ladies and gentlemen to announcements, attraction spills, and perhaps cast member training. It represents one of the most symbolically significant reversals the company has made in years. Disney did not merely drift away from that language by accident. The company very publicly moved toward more gender-neutral speech during its broader inclusivity push in 2021 and 2022, tying that shift to its internal culture, guest-facing presentation, and cast member guidance. Folks, you'll remember they pulled it away from the fireworks show and they said, oh, it's going to be friends now, or it's going to be dreamers of all ages. We're not going to say boys and girls. We're not going to say ladies and gentlemen. We're not going to say sir and ma'am. Jonas, you remember them bragging about this. We'll play the return in just a second. But Jonas, you remember them bragging about this, and even internal videos leaking out where they were so excited about what they'd done. They were so happy that they had removed gendered language that 99.9999% of all of us use.
Right. This is in the same video where Karen Burke was talking about how multiple children in her grown children were let's just say part of the Wi-Fi password community, and then was talking about another section of that same program. There was a gentleman talking about all the things they were putting into Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur, a TV animation executive saying that she was putting queerness into everything. And then you go to this lady sitting behind a desk talking about, hey, they've incorporated into all their training the removal of that pesky gendered language from the parks.
And right here it is, Jonas, back in 2022, reported by WDWNT, Walt Disney World cast members now using friend and other gender-neutral terms to promote inclusivity.
I have to point out that you've gotten a lot of pushback on this channel in the comment section, people saying they don't do that. You've even had cast members say they don't do that. WDWNT is much more, let's say, friendly to the Disney company, and even they said that Disney does this.
The neutral, this is from WDWNT, 3-4 years ago. The neutral friend moniker allows cast members to address individuals without assuming their gender. Similar changes have been made around the resort, such as the switch from ladies and gentlemen to dreamers of all ages. Some cast members had already elected to use friend when they addressed guests, but has become commonplace in the last few weeks. In 2021, Disney announced the addition of inclusion as a fifth key, which serve as the guiding principles for company culture. Since then, similar changes, small and large, have been made across the corporation, and the parks have been no exception. The efforts span a range of demographics, making efforts to provide better representation and inclusion for active military veterans, deaf community, disabled community, people of every race, religion, and more. This was turned into an institutional policy at the Walt Disney Company. This was the norm. Well, folks, the gendered language, offensive as it may be, is back at Disney. Here are some clips from Theme Park Cheetah from the monorail. Well, I guess we'll have to go here. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Magic Kingdom Monorail Station.
Now, if you couldn't hear that, it said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Magic Kingdom Monorail Station. All right, we'll go here.
This monorail will be returned to the Magic Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're standing, please hold on to that handrail.
It says, ladies and gentlemen, if you're standing, please hold on the handrails.
Stay clear of the doors until the monorail stops completely and the doors open. If this concludes your visit,
I let it keep playing because I was hoping we would get the first time ever on the show that we actually play the Por favor, manténganse alejadas de las puertas. I was really hoping for please stand clear of the doors, but we didn't get there. Nat, if we look at this, as just a single story, it's no big deal. It's kind of frivolous. It's like, come on, guys. It's an announcement on the monorail. However, as I think Disney would like for us to cover that, I want to switch it to a different way and say, no, they made a huge deal about this a couple of years ago. They did, not us. And now they're walking that back, and they're not making any announcement this time saying, yeah, I think we're going to say ladies and gentlemen again. So we're going to make a big deal about this one. Is that fair, Nat?
Well, I think the virtue signaling ran its course. And especially now that you said, they didn't say it in Spanish, the por favor, manténgase alejado de las puertas. There you go. You could hear it. Especially with lots of international guests. And for example, English being my second language, not my first. Maybe referring to people that might not have the best grasp of English as friend might be offensive to some. They might have figured that out. They might have figured that it's harder to communicate by not using the gendered language that they used to. Some people might find it offensive from other cultures as well, for example. So they're in a catch-22 of virtue signaling, but also the culture shifting might be to thank, not to blame. I was going to say to blame, but to thank. However, we have seen a lot of companies that implement the changes on the surface, but then you dig a bit deeper and it's still all there. The whole virtue signaling and the old policies, they're just kind of waiting to see if they can shift the culture back to where it was. So while it is a small but very significant win, I would say, at least for now.
And I'll say for those who think we're just making this up again. So 4 years ago, I was talking to a cast member who was discussing the difficulty of these new rules for language. And they were telling me that it's rather difficult sometimes. Like, you need to be able to identify which kid it is you're talking to get down off of something because they don't need to be there, or you need to, like, there is a utility to gendered language. That's why we have it. It developed over very long periods of time. And so this cast member had tried to get creative because friend doesn't convey get off the wall. Friend doesn't convey, stop hitting Pluto. So they were trying to think of, how do I get around this? And so one of the things that they were using was princess, because Disney has princesses. So Disney couldn't ban the use of the word princess. So literally, if they were talking to a little girl, they were using the word princess so that they could identify that's who I'm talking to, that person right there. And this is especially important in places like the water parks, where you really do need to say, hey, you need to get out of that, or you need to get off the water attraction or whatever. So Kara, you had cast members actually twisted, in all kinds of situations, trying to figure out, okay, what again do I say to actually communicate to people in a normal way that doesn't sound alien?
Yeah, I mean, that having descriptors is very important. Like, whether you're in a workplace, you're in a family dynamic, everything, like it is important. So I am glad that they walked that back, or whether they want to admit it or not. It's one of those things where it is a little win, kind of how Nat said, that it is progress. Like, you're seeing that the things that a lot of individuals were saying was divisive or insincere or rude isn't actually those, and that they are in place for a reason. So it's good to have a little bit of sanity coming back, at least.
It is. It feels good. And Jonas, that's really the point. In an effort to make sure you never said the wrong sir or ma'am to somebody in a world that really doesn't exist even anymore, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years later, the Walt Disney Company took this to extremes from extremists inside the company who they placed these edicts down in the parks and the cast members and said, you're not allowed to use anything masculine or feminine, period. You can't use it at all. And then we got in this kind of alien speak where you went to Disney and you walked away and you said, honey, I think I visited a different planet.
Right.
I don't know what language they were trying to use to talk to me.
Friend. It's very strange. Unless you're saying my friend over and over again, which feels like I'm being haggled with while
It sounded like it was like Miss Rachel everywhere. It was like, hi, friend. Would you like a churro, friend? It's like, no, get away from me.
Right.
Keep your darn churros.
If someone says they're my friend and I've just met them, that usually means they're trying to sell me something. Plus, if you're going to address the crowd, you can say, ladies and gentlemen, and you can then go positive or negative from there. One of the phrases that they used was dreamers of all ages. I'm not going to come up to a crowd and deliver the bad news and start with dreamers of all ages. I need to talk to you for a moment. Dreamers of all ages, can I have your attention, please? That is bizarre and weird.
Right. So you're saying that if they came on the intercom and they needed people to evacuate an area rapidly, they probably wouldn't say, hey, dreamers, hey, friends, your lives are in danger. Run.
Exactly. Please, dreamers of all ages, do not break out the windows on the monorail.
Well, that's a story we covered the other day on That Park Place. Folks, maybe they need to be focused more on fixing monorails and that sort of thing rather than gendered language. And isn't it nice that at least if the monorails are going to break down, they're now saying in the spiel, ladies and gentlemen, please stand clear of the doors. Nat, one more time, please.
Por favor, manténgase alejado de las puertas y permanezca sentado.
What a beautiful thing to hear again.
Pulling Holly Weird to the sensible center, the mainstream middle where money is made is not easy, but folks, you make it easy to make videos each and every day because sharing time with you is a great honor and we never take it lightly. An attitude of gratitude every single time we have the chance to shine with you. Until the next time, we only ask that you click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And folks, don't worry about paying any kind of tuition for this free class and how entertainment works. You are on scholarship. Highest IQ on the internet. That's you for sure. Until the next time we have the opportunity to spend time together, folks, we just ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and as ever, keep having fun.